Next on stage, she's a vibrant youth leader with a deep-seated passion for empowering young people. She serves as a bivocational pastor at Mavuno Church and leads the youth ministry at Mavuno's Hill City campus. Currently undertaking a master's degree in theology, she also serves as the executive secretary to the Secretary General of the Association of Evangelicals in Africa, where she contributes to the organization's mission to spread the teachings of Christianity across Africa. Please help me welcome to the stage Pastor Bertice Kado.
Welcome. So good to have you. Wow. So Pastor Bato is a daughter in this house and an amazing minister. She's, as you heard, the youth pastor here at Mavuno Hill City. So she's responsible to help us think through how to reach the next generation.
Right.
And Pastor Bato, say hi to everybody. It's great to have you here.
Hello. So I'll just have you guys know that I am absolutely bricking it. So if I stumble on my words, it's Pastor M. He's intimidating.
Oh, come on, Pastor Bato. You've spoken in international forums. This is nothing. But it's interesting because our nation right now is going through a generational awakening. And we've had conversations about that. Some of your frustration at seeing how the church has been slow in understanding the next generation, understanding how to engage them, understanding how to speak in ways that are relevant. I want to say that Pastor Bato is one of those people who's really insistent. The church must speak the language of the next generation. In fact, it's interesting. One of the conversations I had with Pastor Bato, I say to her, don't blame me. It's like a French person blaming an English person because they can't speak French. I don't speak Gen Z, and that's a confession from me because I'm a parent of Gen Zs. But it's a language. And one of the things that you've helped me understand is that every generation asks different questions. And because of that, it's very easy to miss out when you're trying to share the gospel with people from a different generation from yours. So I want us to have a conversation about that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think you're the first person I had talk about the generational theory. And the first group I had you talk about was the boomers.
Yes.
And maybe tell us about who they are, the boomer generation.
Okay. So I'll just preface by saying I'm not the progenitor of this theory particularly.
Absolutely.
If you go online, there's an evangelical scholar called James Chang, and he found that on studying generations from the 1500s, he's found that there's different patterns that kind of in each cycle. Yeah. Every 20 years, there's a cycle, and after 80 years, which is 4 cycles, it goes back to the beginning.
Wow.
So, and every generation is asking a particular question. When they find answers to these questions that they're asking, they build their lives around it.
Wow.
Yeah?
Wow.
So, let's sample. How many people here were born between 1946 to 1964?
1946 to 1954. There's a few people around, just a few hands. Awesome.
So these people are known as the boomers. And the question they're asking is what is true.
So say that again. The question they're asking
is what is true.
What is true?
What is true. So these people went to school to find out what is true, and then they built and they anchored their lives around what is true.
Yeah. So truth is very important.
Truth is very important.
Facts are important to
Facts
them.
over feelings.
Completely. Proving something is important to them.
Yes. And we saw the counter-argument for their time when they were coming of age. People were saying Christianity is not true. A lot of the Christian leaders we see around this time were apologetics. Ravi Zacharias, C.S. Lewis, William Lane Craig. All of these people came during this time because they really cared about what is true. Yeah. And when they found out what is true, it didn't matter. They would how they felt. They would build and form their lives around this particular truth.
Wow. So that's a boomers. And it's interesting because growing up, I remember as a young Christian that the Christian literature of the day was really about proving the truth, proving that Easter happened.
Yeah, Jesus lived, died, resurrected.
Evidence that Jesus died, evidence that he resurrected. So you prove it, and it's almost like if your idea is better than mine, then your idea wins in a sense.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can prove yourself better than...
And so I basically argue the truth of my faith.
Yes, exactly.
So that's the boomers.
That's the boomers. And then the next after them is the Gen Xers. They were born between 1965 to 1980. Anyone here born between 65 to 80?
There's quite a few of them in the house.
Yeah. So their question is, what is real or what is meaningful?
What is real or
what is meaningful? They looked at the boomers and they were like, all right, that is true, but here's my reality. So people normally blame young people for saying there's no such thing as your truth, but it came from Gen Xers.
Wow.
Notice Gen Xers, you always keep a generation, by the way, when it comes to parenting. So Xers parents Gen Zs.
Yeah.
As Gen Zs are saying, this is my subjective truth. Don't blame them. They heard it from their parents.
Wow.
So
what is real?
Yeah. The arguments of science and all of those things put them off. Yeah. They looked at what was happening. So, for example, in Kenya, they kind of, the high of independence from colonial masters wore off. They saw that institutions weren't working, all of these things weren't working. So they formed certain communities around themselves.
Yeah.
And these communities were very exclusive, almost like social clubs.
Yeah.
And then they just loved each other. And how you would reach a Gen Xer is to tell them meaningful, authentic life stories.
Yes.
So if they saw Jesus in you, then they would be happy to have a spiritual conversation.
That's so true.
So we saw biographies, autobiographies.
That is so
I remember when my parents joined Fearless, the first thing they wanted to do was write a biography. I'm like, no one cares about your life, dude. My mom is here. I care about your life.
So you don't care, wow. But you know, it's so true because I'm a Gen Xer, and as a pastor, I grew up seeing older pastors talking about proof. They wanted principles. John Maxwell, give me the 8 ways to change a church, the 5 ways to do this. That doesn't speak to me.
Right.
And as a Gen Xer, what I want is which pastor has done it, give me his book, let me read his story.
Exactly.
Because if it's real, then that I want to learn from his mistakes.
Yeah, and that was the biggest criticism of the time because this was the rise of like televangelists and stuff, and a lot of them fail morally. So the counter-argument against Christianity at this time was that you guys are not real. So they wanted something that is tangibly real. Like, how is Jesus impacting your life in that season?
Yes.
So it was very helpful, like you said, to have pastors write books that then showed how Jesus manifested in their context.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so helpful. Biographies, autobiographies.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about the next generation.
The next generation is the millennials, born between...
Millennials in the house.
81 to 96. I actually find it quite a crime that me and Pastor James are in the same generation. It should not be. No, I don't think I'm that old.
So you say which years?
1981 to 1996.
Who's born in that space? Let's just see. My gosh, it looks like a majority of people in the house.
This is fantastic because statistics actually say millennials were the group of people that made like a mass exodus out of the church.
Wow.
So it's very encouraging to see that there's a lot of millennials here in church.
Yeah.
But their question that they were asking is, what is good?
What is good?
What is good?
Yeah.
So we saw the age of like charity work really spring up around this time. A lot of celebrities were coming to Africa to do the campaigns for malaria, buying mosquito nets for the kids in Africa. The We Are the World campaigns, things like that really sprung up at this time. So for this generation, they looked at Gen Xers and said, why are you guys just sitting around forming culture clubs? Can we actually do something with our faith?
Wow.
So for them, they wanted it applied.
A practical applied.
A practical.
Faith.
So if you gave them Christianity that was transcendent, Christianity that just dealt with the spiritual matter, that's why they walked away from the church.
They wanted a Christianity that fed the poor.
Exactly.
That went out into the slums, that did something
that
useful.
was tangible. Yes. So yeah, this generation, I think it's true till today, if you offer them a Christianity that primarily deals with what they get after they die, you're not going to get them.
Yeah, yeah.
And
that's so interesting because, I mean, as she talks, I hope you're seeing some emphasis. Even in Mavuno, you can see some of those emphasis. As a Gen X pastor, you talk about real people, real issues, real God. Come on, somebody.
Come on, somebody.
And then with things like Spread the Love, the things we reach the community with, why they're so big is because our church has a lot of millennials.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that reaches that generation.
Yes.
All right, so let's move then to the people of real interest, the
The
subject matter of interest.
So the iGens or the Gen Z, they're
Gen
born
Z.
between 97 to 2015.
97, 2015, any Gen Zs in the house? All right, there's a good number. That's encouraging. That's so good.
So these are a very interesting generation because globally, there are some of the generation that have the most, like their culture is almost throughout. Everywhere you go, Gen Zs almost look alike, no matter where they're from.
And that's because of the media, the internet.
Media, exactly. So because they've grown up in a world dominated by social media, the question that they're asking is what is beautiful?
Wow.
In the age of filters, and all of these things can be airbrushed. They're asking what is beautiful. And when you apply that to society, what does a beautiful society look like? It's just, it's inclusive, it's diverse. So all of these things, they're looking for devotion, something that is beautiful enough, that is worthy of their devotion.
Yes.
So because you can't apply filter to a society and then make it look good, what do? They fight for the justice.
Wow.
Right?
So they want to see inclusion.
Yes.
And so for them, and here's something you mentioned earlier that I thought was fascinating, because you said the gospel is exclusive.
Yes.
The gospel says Jesus is the way.
Yeah.
There is no other way.
Yep.
That can be offensive to somebody who's looking for something that doesn't ruffle, that makes us all one.
It's deeply offensive to Gen Zs. A lot of Gen Zs are completely unchurched. So when they hear the gospel to them is ugly because it separates. It doesn't bring people together. What makes Christianity good over Buddhism? So they want like a variety of things that they can pick the good out of, and then they form this beautiful thing.
So pick
because
and
to them,
choose.
beauty is God.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you reach? And I'm going to go slow down on this too, because I think this is a place where the church has struggled, especially in this country. And I think globally, how do you reach that Gen Z who's saying the gospel is ugly because it's exclusive?
I think the thing that one of the first lessons I learned in youth ministry is that people have to know that you care before they care about what you know.
Wow.
So for them, what is good for them is justice, yeah? They have to know that I also care about justice, that Jesus cares about justice.
Yeah.
So that you're able, once they see that, they're like, okay, that's a person I want to get behind. I want to rally around that person.
Wow.
And then that's how we're able to.
You know, it's so interesting. Let me do a segue here, because I learned something in this last time that was very important. I was speaking to one of my pastor friends who's Gen X like me, and I said, what are you going to do about your Gen Zs? Because I didn't see you on the streets marching with them. And he said to me, I'm going to care for them, but our denomination has made a statement, and they're going to do it. And I immediately understood the generation gap there. Because for his young people, it's not enough that they made a statement. He has to be there with them making the statement and walking on the streets with the young people.
Exactly.
That's what ministers to them and tells them, my pastor cares. He has to be speaking out himself. Now, this was a lesson for me, because I assumed, in the older generation, there's the National Council of Churches, there's Evangelical Association. They've already said what they're saying. So why are you asking me what the church said? The church said it, but no. To this next generation, you have to be with us, caring and showing you care about a just society.
The front line. That's why cancel culture is very prevalent during this time. If you're not about the cause that the young people are about, they cancel you. They will not listen to you.
Wow.
Because to them, you don't care. So why do I listen to a person who doesn't care about me specifically? Yeah.
Now, it's very important we have this conversation. And there's a reason I'm slowing down, because there's a quote you gave me by one of your pastor friends. About this country specifically.
Yeah. So he said, and I think it's true for all of Africa, the median age for Africa is 18. For Kenya specifically, it's 19. So he said to me, if your church demographic does not translate to the same, if the demographic of my church is not, the average is not 19 as well, then we're a dying church.
I don't think they heard you. Because when I heard that, I was like, oh God, help us.
If the demographic you're pastoring is not, if majority of them are not 19 years old or below, you're a dying church. Because you're not reaching. We have to, like I said, we have to disciple Davids to fight the Goliaths of their time.
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, we are not going to be able to reach the coming generations. We will not speak their language. But we have to disciple people who are able to speak that language and then go. We won't expect you to go for every mandamano. It's not fair, to be honest. But then once you disciple young people who can be on the front line, then they can go for the mandamanos. And there even then can be a space for evangelism.
Wow. So I love that. And what you're saying is many of our churches are dying churches because our median age is not 19 and below.
Nope.
And this is a question we all need to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Gen Alphas, because that's the next big thing that's about to happen. It's the kids who are born what year?
So, I need to find. We don't know when the age will be, but from 2014 going downwards, I'm not sure up until what age is Alpha. And there's something very
Anybody born
interesting.
after 2014?
Yes.
Any Gen Alphas in the house? Let me see show of hands.
I saw Pastor Jebo's kids around. They're probably somewhere here.
Can you see the problem in the church right now? They're not here. Yeah.
Yeah. So this generation are the people who will grow up in the age of AI. And their question will most likely be, what is human? They're going to grow up in a world so dominated by things that are curated in the world of technology that they won't know what's real. And like I said, because he said there's 4 cycles that keep repeating itself, because the boomers were asking what is truth, that's likely the same questions the alpha will be asking, only it manifests differently.
Wow.
So what is human? This is my personal interpretation for that question. Humanity is flawed. It's not perfect. It's frail.
Yeah.
In a world that is going to be largely independent, we're going to have AI that can be able to tutor to your child according to where they are specifically.
I mean, why do I even need school?
You don't need school at that point.
My robot can teach my child better than any teacher
Exactly.
can.
So they're going to be very independent. So that we're going to have to teach them that humanity actually means dependence. Humanity is frail. It's not perfect. It's not edited. It's not brushed on. The thing that makes humanity beautiful is that we're completely 100% dependent on the Lord.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if I'm reaching Gen Alphas,
You're reaching Gen Alpha.
this polished,
Nope.
beautiful production church may not be what they're going to be
And it's
attracted
already
to.
happened. It's already started happening with Gen Zs. Like if you look at, for example, groups like Maverick City, the reason they were so popular is because they removed the pulpit. It looks like a group of friends around a circle just worshiping together. There's no titles. There's none of that. You're able to see yourself there because you're like, oh, this is like a group of friends that I have.
Yeah.
So for Alpha, I think it's going to be that, but on steroids, like
Wow.
maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talk to us about, maybe just give us a parting shot, because we're all here, we're leaders, we've got Gen Zs in the house, we've got Alphas in the house, we've got our relatives, our friends. Yeah, what's on your heart for us as the Church of Jesus?
I think some people may wonder why it's important to know about generations and what questions they are asking. And Paul said it very beautifully in 1 Corinthians 19. He says, I become all things for the sake of all men, that by all means I might win some. So these are great gateway questions that people are asking, and we have to find ourselves, we have to contextualize the gospel in a manner that is able to answer these questions.
Yeah.
Pastor M, if I came to you today and I said, Pastor M, this is the first time we're meeting, you have cancer, you're going to die, here's medication. You probably look at me and tell me, get thee behind me,
You're
Satan.
crazy.
Yeah. Go find an asylum or wear a straitjacket or something. But in the context of relationship, if I'm able to hang out with you and I tell you, hey, these are my expertise, like I think you have cancer, this is why I think so, and go to get checked, and if you find that you do, here's the medication. That's a longer process, but then I'll contextualize it to you in such a way, you know that I care, you know that I'm not just saying it, so then you're able to receive it well. So the people, as we're looking to evangelize to the people who haven't been in church, and especially the Alpha, because, like I said, there was mass exodus by the Millennials from the church. They're the ones parenting Alpha. Wow. So we're going to have to start from beginning. Like, why is the Bible true? Yeah. Like, because now you can't just say, because the Bible said so. That's not what, so? Yeah. The Bible says so, and then what? Wow. We have to start from scratch, and it takes time, it takes effort. The church is notorious for answering questions people are not asking. Yeah. And we're working so hard. We're doing all the things we're doing, and we're wondering, why is it not bearing fruit? We need to start answering questions people are asking. The gospel is the answer to every life question. All we need to do is contextualize it well. And to end this, Africa is set to be, Africa is the only continent with a growing youth population. A post by the New York Times said, by 2080, every 1 in 4 people will be African. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
And we already see the beginnings of it today. We see like it's cool to be African music, African movies, like African dance styles. It's cool to be African. Before it wasn't. Before Africa was known by all the hunger and all of these things. Now it's cool. So when we look at these people, when you notice in world history or Christian history, whenever the hub for Christianity moved to a particular region, you saw extreme transformation. We saw it in the Middle East during early Christianity. We saw it in Europe during the Renaissance and the Reformation. In the Americas during various revivals and movements. And now it's Africa's turn. So we have a responsibility to steward the gospel so well that this next generation can take it to the whole world. If we're the only continent with a growing youth population, we have a responsibility.
Yeah.
And the transformation starts from home. We can't be sending missionaries when we're hungry. Like, we have to make sure that the discipleship that we offer people, like Pastor B3 said, is completely holistic. Like, we make sure it's not just spiritual, but it transcends everything else, because that's what the gospel is known to do.
Yeah.
The world did their part, now it's Africa's turn.
Come on. Thank you, Pastor Bato. Wow. You are amazing. Thank you for taking us to school. Amen. Amen. Pastor Bato. Awesome.